indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I guess we have a roll call.
Renee Forte.
Here.
Kevin Ruane.
Here.
Forrest Banks.
Here.
Tony Laffey.
Here.
Colleen Pasquale. Here. Robert Wells.
Here.
Jeff Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Brian Hammond, Fran Myers, and Pamela Cronin are excused.
All right. You have a little announcement you'd like to make.
Yes. This past week, a colleague of ours, a hotelier who was the GM at the Hampton Inn in Estero at one point very recently, died in a tragic motorcycle accident. And I thought perhaps maybe having a moment of silence for Robert Colantonio would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I guess the first thing on our list is the presentation of guest first participants. And Christine, you're going to do the honors?
Yes.
Well.
And there we are. Good morning, everybody. Christine Davlin. Once again, we are here to congratulate those that have graduated going through the Guest First program. So I am super proud. Are we okay? I am super proud again of the time and commitment that the individuals today have taken. If you are a line level associate, you have to take 6 of the Guest First modules, 7 if you're a supervisor or manager, and each of them are 2.5 hours in length. So we all know how busy our schedules are, and taking the time out to attend these classes and then sit for the exam is just a huge statement, and I'm just so proud of everybody that's here today. The particular class that we're going to announce today, there were 25 graduates, so we now have 132 CGSP certified individuals in Lee County, again getting closer to our goal of being the friendliest destination in the world. Yes. So with that said, we do not have a PowerPoint right now, so I am just going to go ahead and read off the names of the individuals that are here. If you would please just come up and get your certificate and your pen. And
Renee and I will shake.
would you please get up and shake their hands? That'd be lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, so the first one we will start with, and we'll just keep going, is Yesela Almeida, who was with Zoomers Amusement Park. Yay! Okay. Sylvia Antunes with Holiday Inn Express. Joan Barkowski with the Hilton Garden Inn. Not everyone is here today. Pam Bestrom with the Red Coconut RV Park. Rhonda Bird with Lee County Parks and Recreation. I know you're here. George Davis with Lee County Parks and Recreation. Haley Fletcher with Gullwing Beach Resort. Christine Hawkins with Barbara B. Mann Performing Arts. Lisa Harmer with Lee County VCB. Mary Ellen Harper with Lee County Parks and Recreation. Brenda Harvey with Outrigger Beach Resort. Tracy John with the City of Sanibel. Benjamin Johnson with Lee County Parks and Rec. Barbara Konzich with Zoomers Amusement Park. Dante Marinell, who's with Lee Tran Passport. Karen McClendon, who's with Zoomers Amusement Park. You'll notice there's quite a few Zoomers here. Oops, sorry, and then I hit you. Marsha Payton with Barbara B. Mann Performing Arts. Seda Penloza, and I can barely pronounce this, with Pelletera Tierra Caliente. Whoa. Thank you. Terry Pullman with the City of Fort Myers. Casey Robb with J.N. Ding Darling. Richard Schaefer with Edison and Ford Winter Estates. Christine Stites with the Gasparilla Inn and Club. Jan Simrosky with the City of Sanibel. Wendy Wall with Sunstream Hotels and Resorts. And Eric Woods with Royal Shell Vacations. Congratulations to all these folks and to their dedication, and I look forward to them serving our guests and visitors in the best way possible. Thank you so much.
Well, that's well done, up to 132, that's great. Well, I guess we have to, do we have a quorum? We do have a quorum. Do I have approval of the minutes of the last meeting, the December meeting?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Kevin, second by Forrest. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right. Public to be heard. Do we have anybody from the public to be heard?
Big success.
Good morning. John Naylor, City of Palms Basketball Executive Director.
Morning,
I just
John.
want to take the opportunity to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and saw several familiar faces at the tournament just before Christmas. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the Board of Directors of Classic Basketball, Inc., for making this the 42nd annual event, probably one of the best ever. We sold out 5 of the 6 nights. Actually literally had to close the door and not let any more people in 3 of the nights because we had reached capacity at Bishop Perot. So we're already busily planning next year's event, the 43rd annual one. So it could not happen without the support of the TDC and the Sports Development Office, and just wanted to reach out and say thank you to all of you, and keep coming and support us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Great turnout. Anyone else from the public to be heard? Closing public to be heard. Municipalities to be heard. Morning, Judy.
Good morning. My name's Judy Zamama. I'm the city manager of Sanibel, and Happy New Year. Today I want to rise and speak for a moment about an aspect of guest services that I don't think everybody in the public's aware of. I don't think even everybody on TDC is aware of, and the quality of the work that we do here in our local community that really distinguishes us. Every day we come here to work, everybody in the hospitality industry, I know on Sanibel, dedicated to be certain that all of our guests have a wonderful experience. We hope they enjoy the sunshine, they visit our restaurants, our hotels, and they go home with photographs and happy memories. Unfortunately, on December 15th, we had a tragedy on Sanibel. For more than 15 years, we've not had a beach drowning. But the Akers family, which has been visiting Sanibel for 20 years consecutively, which is very common for our guests, that they come back every year to the same resort. They came back to one of our timeshare resorts. But there was one thing different this year. They brought along their only daughter's boyfriend, who was 19 years old. His name was Chad Winters. They're from Chicago. Chad comes from a family, a typical modern family. His parents divorced when he was young, so he had a stepmother, a stepfather, and some half-siblings. Unfortunately, when Chad and Lauren went out, just the two of them on a paddleboard, and the exact medical examiner's report's not in, but he did have a pre-existing medical condition, which may be a contributing factor. But he fell off the board in 10 feet of water. Lauren struggled for quite some time trying to get him on the board in the 10 foot of water, but he was totally passed out, and his body was gone immediately. So it was much in the media, of course, that we were looking for what was a potential drowning victim. And the very first phone call I made after receiving the briefing from the chief of police, and the second call was, of course, to my mayor, And the third call I made was to your executive director. I was here, and I just wish Pam Cronin and the other members who I know have a major conflict with the airport meeting today could be here today, because for those members that were here, like Renee, you may remember about 13, 14 years ago, I was part of some of the discussions where we talked about the need to have funds set aside and expertise so that not only when we're having good times, but when we have tragedies, that the TDC would be in a position to step forward. And I can't tell you what a great job your staff did. Sean Corey, Judy Durant, and your executive director were just wonderful working with this family. The mayor has seen the emails, excuse me, that have come in from the family. Their thanks. We had one goal throughout this, and that was to recover the body with dignity and respect. We had meetings. One advantage and disadvantage of Sanibel is we're a worldwide brand. Everybody knows the word Sanibel. So a few hours after this drowning occurred, we had TV cameras on the beach from as far as Miami and Tampa. And no offense to my good friends in the media, but their goal was to get the picture of the body being recovered. And we were able to achieve that for the family in a very dignified and respectful way, including some arrangements we made after the body recovery to be certain that the identification the family had to make was done again in the most respectful manner after the body had been in the water for over 24 hours. So thank you, Tam. Thank you, TDC.
If I may, I can't thank the staff enough. As the mayor of the city, it was a really tragic event, and kudos to all the help we got. Thank you.
And if I may add, you know, honestly, it's a partnership, and your team, I mean, above and beyond, our team above and beyond. I had a note myself to thank Judy, Simone, and Sean on our team, but also to thank the city of Sanibel. Judy and I have worked together a long time now, but we work really well together, and you know, I always believe that in the toughest times, the best comes out of you, and I think you saw that from both teams. But thank you.
As Judy says, you know, it's easy when things are going well, but when you have a tragedy like this that you have to deal with, that's when you see the expertise that comes out of organizations like this and the city. And I'm sure the family appreciates that. Thank you for that update, Judy. Any other municipalities to be heard? Seeing none, let's move to the report from the executive director. Pam, you're on.
So my first thing was going to be to thank you, Judy, and the team, but I will say I know it's cold this morning. It's real cold for us. But I took a look at my phone this morning just to see how cold it was in a few other places. So it's -4 in Chicago. It's 0 in Boston. It's 3 degrees in Minneapolis. It's 10 degrees in New York City, and it's 18 degrees in Dallas. So given that we're about 50 degrees warmer than all of those key markets to us, I hope you'll wear your coat today and realize that tomorrow you won't be wearing it. Let's do the reports. I think I keep saying this. It's getting old hat, isn't it? Another very large increase in bed tax for the month of November, up 17.4% over the preliminary numbers from last November, and for the year to date, up about 15%, 14.8%. In terms of Smith Travel report, and you're going to get a much more detailed analysis from Smith Travel, but this is just November and the calendar year to date. But for November, up 11% in occupancy, ADR up 3.4%, RevPAR up 15%, room revenue up 15.7%. Available rooms now at a 0.1% increase, and rooms sold at 11.9% increase. And the year-to-date numbers are very, very similar. As we know, 2014 is going to have proven a banner year in terms of those key metrics. And again, Brittany will give you a really good report on where we stand, how we compare, and most importantly, a forecast for 2015 from Smith Travel. Airport had an increase in passengers for November of 4.8%, 669,567 passengers, and that compares to $639,047 the year before. So again, 4.8% increase. And a quick look at our key indicators. You will see for the fiscal year, the 2 months of the fiscal year, all the key indicators are up. For the month of November, total inquiries up 73%, a little dip in leads, 17%, but partner referrals up 29%. Really starting off the year very, very, very good when you look at that year-to-date information. With that, I'm going to ask that we turn it over to Brittany.
All right. Brittany, you're on.
Good morning. I would like to thank you for having me today, and that's a sincere thank you. When Tam said you can leave the Nashville snow and come to the 70 degree sunny weather, I thought, well, why not? And then I woke up this morning and realized I brought it with me. So I'm sorry. I go back this afternoon, and you'll be back to normal, so it's like I wasn't even here.
You'll have to stay a little longer.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different.
Yeah, it is. It was snowing in Nashville when I left yesterday, so it's drastically different. Yeah, they're experiencing the lowest temperatures that we've had there in years. So they hate me right now for being here. Yeah. Before I get started, I wanted to mention I too am a CGSP, and I have bragged on Lee County throughout the industry for your efforts that have occurred in that community training program. And you would be shocked at the CBBs that want to follow you in that footsteps. So congratulations on that effort. Congratulations to your staff. It's a huge win. Over the next 35 minutes or so, and that's a long time for data, so I'm going to try to make it enjoyable as possible. I'm going to review a lot of things. A lot of these slides are going to have a lot of data points. There's a lot of graphs. I believe you have the deck in your packet as well. Just in case you wish to see this digitally, you can find it on our free news site, which is hotelnewsnow.com. Simply go to the homepage, create a free login. You'll be able to see all of STR's presentations that we do throughout the year across the globe. So if we've got something going on in Boston and you want to see the Boston presentation, go to that website. While you're there and you've got your login, I would urge you to also sign up for the free daily newsletter. Comes out every day, gives you the 5 things to know for the tourism industry. Great way to stay on top of it and look great in front of your boss. Last year we did an impact of the sharing economy on hotels. We know that Airbnb has been a hot topic in the industry. You can view that on the site as well as our unique content that we post there every day. So in following that 5 things to know, that's the way I've set up this morning's presentation, just to give you an overview of 5 important areas. I'll start out with the pulse of the U.S. hotel industry, just to give you an idea of where we're at. We'll dig into what's going on in Lee County. We'll look at how Lee County is comparing to other counties within the state. Take a peek at what's coming into the new hotel supply pipeline, and then I'll wrap up with where we at STR are projecting the industry for 2015 along with Lee County. After that, I'll open it up for any Q&A. So just to give you an idea, if you've heard anything about the U.S. hotel industry right now, it indeed is going gangbusters. Before I can tell you where we're at, we have to take a moment to look back. And in 2013, the industry set numerous records, including the most rooms sold, the most rooms available, most rooms revenue, highest ADR, the list goes on. So when that happened in 2013, we said, what will occur for 2014 since we've seen this tremendous growth? Will we continue to see that growth, or will that start to slow a bit? And I'm excited to say that May was the first month that we started to see some momentum. RevPAR was up 10% for the nation, which is the highest May RevPAR increase we've ever seen. Then June occurred with almost a 72% occupancy, which was the highest June occupancy of the decade. We knew we were off to a good start then. The month of July, the industry sold the most rooms in one month ever, with 113 million room nights sold. That's huge. And then by the month of August, rooms revenue for the nation was up to $90.8 billion with a B dollars, which was the highest August revenue we had seen yet. So where did that put us for the year? Well, so far, 2014 is already going to surpass that. If we look at a year holder of a record, which was 2008, was $107 billion. We never thought we'd probably see more than that. 2013, $122 billion. As of November 2014, already at 124. So the tourism industry is huge. What a profitable industry. Now, notice I say November, we're already in January, because we try to accommodate our clients, which include very large chains, Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, all of the big guys. They are unable to get their data to us until a month behind. So we won't have January until next week, but Tam will have those numbers for you as soon as they come out, and I'm sure that she'll share that, and you'll be anxious to see that. But the rest of my presentation will be looking at year-to-date November, just to give you an idea of why that says that. So yes, everything is awesome right now. We've stolen that from the Lego movie. Occupancy at 66% for the nation. Average daily rate, the highest we've seen, at 116. Revenue per available room at $76. That's 8.3% over last year. A RevPAR of $76 and a room revenue, like I mentioned, of $124 billion. That's up 9.2% as of November. So this year, 2014, will close out very well. Now, part of the equation lifting this strong performance is the current relationship between supply and demand. You might kind of notice I've pulled that out so that you can look at supply and demand by itself over time. This is a 12-month rolling average, so everything's kind of smoothed out. But you can see towards the end there in 2014, what exactly we're seeing is that demand is roaring. We're seeing really strong growth now at 4.3%. And while there are a lot of projects in the supply pipeline, which I'll show you here in a little bit, those are not actually opening their doors yet, or at least they haven't in 2014. So we're seeing strong demand, low supply growth, putting us in this perfect opportunity for the industry to really see some prolonged pricing opportunities. We've seen strong rate growth at 4.5%. Some markets seeing exceptional rate growth now that they're capitalizing on this demand and this low supply. So we're seeing that for the total U.S. as well. We know that pricing power leads to the revenue, which is the bottom line at the end of the day. For 2013, I mentioned total revenue for the industry was $122 billion. 8 states contributed to over half of that. The largest contributor being California, the second being the state of Florida at $11.8 billion. In fact, if you combined California, Florida, and New York, that would be over 32% of that total revenue. So it goes to show that not only is tourism important to Florida, but Florida is important to the industry. To give you an idea of where Florida sits year-to-date November, occupancy at 70%, that's above the national average. ADR of $124, that was up 5.6% over last year. Revenue per available room at $87, that's up 10% over last year. Room revenue at $12 billion, which has already surpassed where it was last year at a 9.2% increase. So the state of Florida certainly capitalizing on this profitable industry as well. Which brings me to the important part of why you and I are both here today, to talk about the beautiful Lee County. Looking at a glance year to date, 134 properties is what we have in our database at STR. That represents a little or almost 12,000 rooms. Occupancy year to date, almost 66%, which is the national average. That is up 7.8%. ADR of $140, which is above the national average at 6.7% growth. A RevPAR of $91, which is 15% higher than last year. That's huge. I mean, we thought 8.3% for the industry was a big number, but to see double digits like that, especially for a county with 134 hotels, is outstanding. Room revenue sitting at $359 million for year to date. That was also almost a 15% increase. So job well done for the county. Now I mentioned for the total U.S. that supply and demand relationship. I'll show you what that looks like for Lee County as well, and it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is a perfect gateway for you all to enter into 2015. You see that demand is up 8.2%. Supply growth is actually at a lack of growth compared to think it was, 6 years ago, there was a large boom of inland supply. We're not seeing that type of growth anymore, which kind of, when that overbuilds during that low demand, we see that kind of hostile environment. We're now in that great environment where pricing power is wide open, which is why we're seeing that occupancy was up 8.3%, rate at 6.4%. Now, when you look at this, because it's smoothed out over time, it appears as if each month is having substantial or sustainable growth. But we know that you are in a highly seasonal market, and not every month looks the same. So I wanted to just kind of give you an idea of what that looks like. And in case you didn't know, you all made the national news. At our office in Colorado, decided they wanted to do a study to see of our 163 markets in the U.S., which were the 5 that were the most seasonal and the 5 that were the least seasonal. And after doing so, Fort Myers, Lee County was number 4, that highest seasonal month being March. There was a 48-point difference between March and September, which I'm sure you all are very well aware of, that we just put it out there for everyone else to see. So this is what that looks like, basically. I'm looking at weekday occupancy. I'm comparing 2014, 2013, and then 2007. Why 2007? That was the golden year of the industry. It's a great benchmark to use. So you're able to kind of see those dips and peaks, 87% on average for the month of March, 41% for the month of September. I quote TAM on this. It's the time of what the 3 H's, hot, humid, and hurricane. So it makes it really a challenge, we know, to fill a need period like that. But, the good news is seeing some growth year over year in some of these areas, especially the month of July there. You can see that 2014 saw some growth over prior years. November really ended the year well, and if that trajectory shows December in that same fashion, you should have a really nice year-end number for weekday occupancy. Where there's not a lot of variance on both weekday and weekend is on the rate. You can see this clearly, that the month of March saw some nice increases over last year, actually $14. That's quite a bit in looking at year-over-year growth. For the rest of the year, however, really not seeing a lot of rate movement. You'll see that even more when I go into a weekend. Here's your weekend occupancies. No surprise here that the shoulder seasons are higher on the weekends. I know that you all are working very hard to bring in those sporting groups. You had the Island Hopper, I believe it was called, for the first time, and trying to fill out those fall months and bring those seasons up. You can definitely see that that's having an impact on the weekends. March on average at 90, and then you've got July and November in that 70% range. Really some nice growth over 2013 and definitely over the peak year. Where you don't see that is weekend rate, virtually no movement. So you see that the month of March there is again the only, really besides July, the month that saw any movement in weekend rate. Over last year, it was, over the peak year, it's $15. Over last year's $20. So there's definitely some rate movement that's occurring just in 1 month, basically, a little bit in the month of July. Now, legally, I cannot say to your hoteliers, please increase your rate. But what I can say is that there are some really strong occupancies occurring.
I'll say it.
Heard that before.
So what does this mean for the month of March? There's no, you know this. It's a seller's market, and it's being capitalized on. You can see the stair-step improvement there throughout the last 4 years, both weekday and especially weekend. On the low season, not so much. In fact, for 2012 and 2013, we started to see a negative trajectory in that rate movement. Weekend finally saw a nice, strong rebound, 6.9% for 2014. How that will go for 2015 will be interesting to see. Now at STR, we allow our hotels to submit 3 pieces of information. We call it segmentation. It's a breakout of group, transient, and contract. Group meaning that it was sold in a block of 10 rooms or more. Contract being your airline crews. Transient basically being everyone else. For the sake of today, because contract takes up such a small piece of the pie for both U.S. and Lee County, I'm not going to talk about that, but just in case you ever need it, it's out there. This is what that looks like as a total pie for the U.S. right now. I'm basically showing you this just so you'll have a reference for Lee County. That in 2005, when we started collecting segmentation data, on average, transient made up 57% of the pie. As of the end of 2013, it was at 64%. So we're seeing a growth in transient, actually a decline in group business within the nation. To show you what that looks like over time, you can see that the transient mix has always been the largest contributor to the overall occupancy. However, in 2010, there was a clear divergence between the two, and we've seen that gap just continue to widen throughout the years. That's pretty well what we're seeing for Lee County as well. I started this in 2010 because that's when it became sufficient enough to report on for the county. On average, 70% of the mix being transient, 30% of that mix being for group business. Now, if this looks a little wonky to you and you're a hotelier in the room, I would say, are you submitting your segmentation data? Because we have a small percentage of the hotels in the mix that are doing so. It is free to do it. You get additional reports on your monthly and weekly reports for submitting it, and then it helps your TDC make better decisions as to what that mix actually looks like and how they can help you fill that need period.
Talk about
Yes,
the
sir.
percentage of your, how many hotels do you have reporting?
When it started in, your group started in 2007 with 10 hotels. I believe now we have close to 20.
Hotels out of 100 and something.
34, correct. Yeah.
Reporting segmentation.
Reporting
Just to be
segmentation,
clear.
correct, not reporting the regular data. Yep, so definitely a huge urge for the hoteliers in the area to do that, as it would, make this look more accurate.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Segmentation. If you're having a group wedding, for
Mhm,
instance, they're all booking individually in a sense, but do you count that as a group?
It all depends on how the hotel labels and submits that. So the hotel should, if it's a block of 10 rooms that they're selling to that wedding group, it should be coded as group. Did I see another hand? I didn't want to skip someone. Okay. So that brings us to where Lee County falls compared to other counties within the state, and these are all counties that Tam and her team looks at on a monthly basis. Ranging from Collier all the way to Monroe there, you can see on average these counties all selling 6 of 10 room nights year to date, meaning basically occupancies are 60% or higher on average. Lee County there at 65.6%, towards the leader of the pack there, Monroe, almost at 80%. We know that they're capitalizing on the fact that they don't have a lot of growth for supply. They've got that demand coming in, so they're able to occupy those rooms and be the rate leader. That's what's working for them. $252 puts them at the rate leader. Lee there in the middle at 140. Manatee at 114. Some other areas like Broward, 126. Looking at the occupancy growth year over year, Lee County leading the pack, 7.8%. Manatee there at 7.5%. You've got Broward at 4.5%. Then kind of towards the bottom, Palm Beach 1.8%, and Miami-Dade at 1.2%. What does this mean for rate growth year over year? Well, we saw that on the weekends, we're not seeing that rate growth. Weekday is minimal as well. That's what's kind of putting it at the middle of the pack, but still overall 6.7%. Leading the way again, Manatee at 8.8%, Monroe at 9.1%, and Collier at 9.5%. For RevPAR growth, because of the strong occupancy, that's what's pushing Lee County to be a strong contender at the 15%, only surpassed by Manatee at almost 17%. Towards the bottom there being Palm Beach 8.6% and Miami-Dade at 6.8%. Now, we know that the industry and Lee County are both rocking and rolling right now, but there are two things that we've seen in the past that can affect that type of growth. One being a black swan event, which we can't predict and we certainly hope doesn't happen. The second being a large influx of new hotel supply. So to give you an idea of where we sit for the industry, STR currently collects all phases of life for projects, all the way from just something that's on the books to its doors actually being opened and ground being broken. You can see in construction we have 117,000 rooms currently in the U.S. under construction. That is up 28% over last year. You can see that the planning phase is up 33% over last year. That puts our total under contract 413,000 rooms for the U.S. That's up 17%. So, you know, we also have to look at attrition rates. How many of these will actually make it to the final stage? They'll actually open their doors. But for now, that's a pretty large number. When you look at 2007, we ended the year at 417,000. So we're not in as bad shape as what it appears. But that is quite a bit of supply if it were to open its doors tomorrow. Just to give you an idea of that, we know that it's going to be different in every market. Right now, the highest market seeing that growth will be New York at 5.6, my hometown of Nashville at 2.4, and so on. Now for New York, that 5.6, just when you thought there's no room left in the downtown Manhattan, Times Square area, that's 13,000 rooms that they currently have under construction. Should they all open tomorrow, that represents 12% of their existing supply. I tell you that because you guys are in really good shape. You know, different beast, and they'll probably absorb that well. But just to show you, some other markets are really seeing some booms right now that we don't see for Lee County, which positions you to continue this nice demand and supply relationship. The state of Florida, currently at 219 projects under contract. I think 57 of those are in construction, not a huge amount. For Lee County, we currently just have 3. They're on the planning books. And that rooms total is probably not 100% accurate because some of those projects have not told us what those room counts will be. And we have a few projects that we've heard of that just have not had a planning permit yet. So those could be missing for you as well.
Is the Harborside session in this?
Correct. It is.
And how big is that, 230?
25.
Of that 330, 220.
And again,
Yeah.
That's a guess,
Right,
right? I
right.
mean, just
No.
to be clear,
Yeah.
you know, it's a buzz conversation
Exactly.
at that point.
Yeah, that's the developer basically saying we think it'll open in 2 years and it'll probably have this many rooms for funding purposes. Yep. So that brings me to where are we headed for 2015. I know you're sighing with relief. This is almost over.
It's good.
So, like I said, everything is awesome. Right now, we've seen 51 consecutive months of positive RevPAR growth, which we know makes hoteliers squeamish because they know that this industry is cyclical, and they want to know when's this going to end. Basically, our answer to that question is we are projecting for us to see this at least another 12 months. You can see what we projected to end 2014, RevPAR being at 8.5%. We think that we'll close at that. Supply, we're projecting for the nation to be up 1.3. You saw the amount of supply that could possibly come in. With the open dates that we're seeing, we think there'll be a slight bump, which will affect demand slightly, 2.4%. It'll still be a strong industry year. Rate is where we're projecting we'll start to see more growth, 5%, and that'll draw the RevPAR at 6.2. To give you an idea of the top 25 markets of where those fall for the state of Florida, Miami, Orlando, and Tampa currently projected to see anywhere between 5 to 10% in RevPAR growth for 2015, which will be really exciting when you hear where Lee County is at, because we are projecting you'll be at 10.3, which could be even higher than some of your constituents there in other parts of the state. Occupancy, we're projecting at 5.1% growth. ADRs, where we're hoping to see a little bit more of that push at 5%, bringing that RevPAR double digit. Really nice 2015. So just to recap, life is great. We say at STR, fish while the fishing is good, and now's the time to fish. Demand is strong and steady, especially on the weekends for Lee County. Supply growth, not an issue for now. Don't see it being an issue for next year as well. At the end of the day, your forecast for year-end RevPAR and into next year really rosy. So with that, are there any additional questions? Yes, sir.
Brittany, do you have any data specific to sports tourism and the effects that's having on the industry in Florida, and any projections on growth and demand?
So we don't technically have anything that we call sports data, but what we could do, let's say for instance that TAM held an event in a certain part of town, or that there was a marathon in Tampa, or there was a game in Miami, whatever it may be, she can come to us and say, or anyone can come to us and say, we want to look at the 7 hotels that surrounded that ball field, or the 8 hotels that participated in that group block. We want to see how that compared versus other times that they've not had that event, how that event has affected different places when it's moved around, and that would be able to kind of give you a gauge of what those sporting events are doing.
And any information on trends for growth?
For sporting?
Yeah.
That would I wouldn't be able to kind of tell you. As far as the industry goes, sporting's the buzzword.
Yeah.
You know, that's everybody wants to be in sports right now, especially warm weather destinations, because you can host them much longer than other destinations. As far as what that looks like for data, it would be all over the place, depending on size of event, location, things like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
For, this might be a local question, for groups that are, for hotels that are doing the group versus individuals, as far as the booking goes, our sports, how does the sports work for Lee County? Would that be a block that's then booked more than 10 rooms by Sports Authority with the hotel, and would that be seen as a group, or would that be the individuals calling in, and that would be?
I can tell you how it's handled.
Our expert is here.
So what was your exact question?
So, group versus individuals,
Mm-hmm.
10 group being defined by 10 rooms or more in a block. Is that, how are our hotels, are they considering that group, or are they considering those individuals if they're coming to sports events in Lee County?
Typically, if it's a team, it will tend to fall into the group category. It depends on how organized that organization is and whether they're forcing them through housing systems and things like that. You know, we work with the sports organizing committee to help put our room blocks together. A lot of the groups come as individual parents, and then they really kind of randomly end up in hotels outside of the group block. As far as trends and how to measure sports is concerned, you know, we feel that, you know, you can see some of the spikes throughout the report that was just given. And July, for instance, was a huge month for us. It was our record-setting. We did, I think, 38,000 hotel room nights because we had Narch, we had Perfect Game. So certainly, you know, the July numbers that they showed, sports was part of that. You know, it wasn't the bulk of it, but it certainly had an influence on that month. So as we continue to grow, I think you see spikes here and there, and they're little bumps in the calendar, but they're still bumps, regardless.
Some of those hotels may not be participating in stars, so it's gonna be hard to really kind of track that too.
Yeah, I think a lot of sports groups tend to go into the inland properties and the corporate flags, which do show up on Star Report, but during the summertime specifically, when we've got Narch coming in, when we've got Perfect Game, people are making this their vacation. They do then flow to the beaches and fill up properties that they typically wouldn't stay in if it was a weekend event.
Just to kind of say something about that too, about the coding. I would think most of your national chains are going to code parents as well as individuals to a group subcode. I know all of the rooms that we take in are subcoded to Lee County Sports as well as to the group that's coming in. So if the parents are coming in for Perfect Game, then there's going to be a parent group as well as a team group block. Sometimes you do have lots of parents that come in under your reward points or come in as an individual, and they sometimes book out of their corporate accounts. Those are difficult to pull out. But for the most part, I would think most of the national chains are going to be doing it in a certain way like I'm doing, where you're going to be coding not only the families but also the teams correctly.
That would make your group look good. And when we looked at Brittany's chart of that spread between transient and group nationally, it was opening up, and it was for Lee County also. I found that a little amazing because I was thinking of all the sporting groups that come in. I should think our groups would have been doing better. Looks like group business is going to be a challenge for us.
Back to the only 20 hotels.
On the segments.
I don't know, is there probably a fee,
I mean,
of course, associated with, it's free, okay, so it's free, it's for me, so that's a good thing.
But it's extra step. That's the
Extra
only
step,
thing.
but it's probably simple to do, though.
I think it's also important to know, I mean, a lot of what you're seeing in that number is the big meetings hotels, too. Keep in mind, Hyatt, Marriott, you're seeing their meetings business in that group number. So just keep in mind, I would be very hesitant to say that 30% was sports. I would think that would be, a much smaller number if you were looking at sports only. That a lot of that, most of that, is meetings and that business driven by
We
meetings.
tend not to qualify a sports event as as group business. For us, that's typically individuals coming in. When we start talking in our culture about group business, it's a sports convention of some sort. So it's if we're hosting Florida Youth Soccer annual meeting down here, or if we're hosting a specialty sport association at one of our meetings properties, that's when we start talking to the hotel about this. It's a big group block. We've never really considered a team of players coming in as a group, but I think a lot of hoteliers qualify it as a group.
In the hotel business, the minute you hit 10 rooms or more, it's a group. So if a team comes in for 16 people, it becomes a group, and it gets coded as such.
And if it's individual parents, like you want to manage that rate, and it's easier to just, okay, you're a parent, it could be an event. I mean, so for hoteliers, it's
So it's a matter of classification on various people's part. And for Brittany, your data is only as good as the input you get. And it's I realize you're saying you only have 20 out of 134 respondents for segmentation. Overall, I mean, the normal data that you get, what kind of percentages are we talking about from Lee County?
Typically, we consider a valid sample to be 60% or higher of the total room supply. So we would want it to get at least to that point. Lee County as a whole is there for the hotel side. Keep in mind, we do not collect data for your Airbnb properties, your condos, condominiums, anything that's privately owned, just hotel accommodations.
Getting a good sample from Lee County?
Correct. Yeah, I can actually share the response report with Tam if she'd like to share that with any of you all as well. If you have any properties that you hope to get on board, we'll partner with anyone to reach out to those folks.
This is, it's that tricky thing, and we talk about that a little bit. Why do we do the DPA report? It's because we do get a little more coastal participation, non-flag participation in the DPA report. But again, I mean, this is segmentized in a completely different way. They're taking data, pulling it straight from your reservation system. It's a very different kind of system than the other profiling we do.
If we're only getting 20 out of, 124, whatever it is,
Segment.
if it's good information at all, I agree with Colleen. We ought to have some little effort to. I mean, 20% of that information comes from this table. And we ought to be able to figure out some way to get to the rest of them to say, how about some of the rest of you ponying up?
Mr. Chair? Brittany, the reason for my question, sports tourism is the buzz. We know everyone is competing for the business of all these groups. But what I can't tell yet, given its contribution, but a small part of our market at the moment, or our business. I thought when Hooters opened that it was going to be a fad. Who's going to go to a restaurant to eat wings? And I thought it wasn't going to last. Well, obviously I was wrong.
They also have other things there, though.
I didn't understand the concept nearly as well as I should have, I suppose. But sports tourism, it's relatively new in the world of tourism marketing, I think, relatively speaking. So we're considering some investments in infrastructure and trying to think about how much, when, and how long is it going to last, or is it just one of those markets that's going to continue to grow?
I would point you towards, and I'm sure Tam already has this as a resource, the National Association of Sports Councils. They're fabulous, and that's all they do. But I can tell you that that's that has been the buzz for the last 2.5 years now. And I don't see that changing just with the athletic community growing. It's a popular thing with the U.S. being in the soccer tournament. It seems like now soccer's growing in the U.S. We've done a few things for Nashville when they've had, I think we hosted the women's Final Four. Gosh, what month would that have been? Maybe April or May? I'm horrible at dates for basketball. I'm not a follower.
March or April, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. March Madness, that would make sense. Yeah, we did the Final Four, and it was like a whopping, a huge, I want to say 12 million was generated in room sales just for the 2 days that they were there. Because we were able to say, here was the room block that participated, here were the 2 days that it happened downtown. We could kind of pinpoint. So the CVB was able to use that to say, we should definitely try and host the Final Four again. Obviously, that's a big event. That's kind of a no-brainer. But we have seen that for the smaller destinations, when they do the tournaments, they're seeing that the length of stay is longer because you now have a bracket. So you're playing this opponent, and if you win, you got to stay this night. And if you win again, you got to stay again, which makes it kind of tricky for the hotelier, to have that reservation system. But it does make the length of stay longer. So maybe getting in touch with NASC, I'm sure Tam already has, but could be a great resource as well. Absolutely.
Any other questions for Brittany? Brittany, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I assume you've got copies of, hard copies of this over there for the people in the audience to take with them, or is that good? And so this is worthwhile. And we hope that your flight back to Nashville is delayed for about a week. So. Thank you so much. Okay, for council information, do you want to start, Forrest?
All set.
Oh, that's CDC member items. I guess you're going to give the council information.
Well, I only want to point out one thing to you. In your packet is a list of events around the construction project and the reopening of the Lee County Sports Complex. Jeff, please tell me the name of it. The CenturyLink. CenturyLink Sports Complex? Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was park or field or what CenturyLink.
Yeah.
Known to all of us as Lee County Sports Complex. And the ribbon cutting is on February 22nd. And the events on that day are from 10 to 2, but the ribbon cutting is at noon.
All right. Wow.
That's all I'm going to point out.
Now, with under the proper terminology, TDC member items. Forrest, do you want to start?
Well, I think we're happy to hear that the songwriters group is going to be in Fort Myers, I understand, next year, and that's super duper.
Great.
Personal note, just for people, I sit on another board called the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust. I'm heading to London today for about 10 days. Our role is to help around 600 different entities, including municipalities and counties, hospital boards, fire departments, place their insurance and reinsurance. So I just wanted people to know, if you send me an email or something, I may not be quick to get back to you.
You need somebody to carry your bags?
Cool. Bigger cities looking to pick up business over there doing that?
No, we actually, what we do is our responsibility is to place our reinsurance, obviously where insurance companies go. And we've done that since the league's been open, and it's a real challenging upcoming reinsurance placement because we haven't had an event here in Florida, a wind event, in over 10 years.
Stays that way.
Me too.
Jeff?
Yes, on January 22nd, your Lee County Hotel Association is going to be at CenturyLink Park for our monthly luncheon. So we're going to get a little sneak preview and tour of that complex before anybody else does. So if you do want to join, go online at LeeCountyHotelAssociation.com. You can sign up for the lunch. It's January 22nd. Boy, oh boy, I'm getting ahead of myself. January 22nd at CenturyLink Sports Complex. So please come out and see it.
Colleen?
The Chrysalis nominations are available on the VCB website. Those are due next week. Actively pushing for those. Your business than anybody else, or you can nominate somebody else, and then we'll go after them to get them to fill it. April April 16th this year versus May as we've done in the past.
Rob?
Nothing at this time.
Just to note that the United Way campaign is off and running, and we hope that the hotelers will join in and have service to our full community here in Colors, which is the largest Lee County can make their county.
Thank you, Tony. The only thing I would have as a TDC member, last time when we met, I know Fran was frustrated because of the parking lot situation. And I noticed again this morning when I came in, Tony and I drove in about 20 of, and the sign was already out there, a lot is full. And it could be because, you know, we had the group here that were getting awards. Last time we blamed it on the boat show or something. But, you know, I think maybe we ought to look at the parking out there, because I think only part of that parking lot out there is available to folks like us, and the others are signed. So, you know, you might have somebody take a look at that. It can be very frustrating. You know, people are going to turn around and leave. Fortunately, thanks to Forrest, we have 2-hour parking spaces on the street, and this police folks aren't going to bother us. And we're going to keep this to an hour. But I mean, it's something to look at.
Okay.
You know, once is, but now 2 or 3 times we ought to take a look at it.
Yep, understood.
We have anything else? Meeting is adjourned.
Good.
Have a good trip.